Hello, welcome to the Movie Zone. Today we are recapping Season 1, Episode 3 of Game of Thrones. Ned Stark arrives at the capital while Jon Snow begins his training at the Wall up north. More conflict and drama ensue in Westeros, all while a Targaryen threat looms with the Dothraki in the Far East. As usual, spoilers ahead, so be ready. Let's begin. Ned Stark, serving as the new Hand of the King, arrives at King's Landing after a long month of travel. A messenger approaches and tells him the Small Council, a small body of advisors who aid the Lord of the Seven Kingdoms, is calling for a meeting and requesting his presence. On his way there, he meets Sir Jaime Lannister, who's just chilling by the Iron Throne. It becomes evident they do not like each other. They trade barbs and backhanded insults. Jaime recalls the day the previous king, Aerys Targaryen, aka the Mad King, ordered the deaths of Ned's father Richard and older brother Brandon. During Robert's rebellion, the conflict that ousted the Mad King, Jaime was the one who delivered the final blow and stabbed the Targaryen king in the back. He attempts to justify his act of betrayal by pointing out Aerys's treatment of the Starks. But Ned isn't buying it. He leaves Jaime saying, "You served him well, when serving was safe." Ned reaches the Small Council. The group consists of Lord Varys, the Master of Whisperers, Lord Renly Baratheon, Master of Laws and the King's younger brother, Lord Peter Littlefinger Baelish, Master of Coin, and Grand Maester Pycelle, Grand Maester of the Citadel. King Robert is supposed to be there, but is very busy these days. The council starts off the meeting. King Robert ordered a tournament in honor of Ned's appointment as the Hand of the King. Littlefinger says this would be a costly event, so he plans on borrowing 80,000 gold from the Lannisters. He reveals the crown is already 6 million gold in debt. Ned is shocked by this and orders the council to postpone the planning until he discusses it with Robert. The Queen, Cersei, is tending the wounds of her beloved son, Prince Joffrey. After suffering from a direwolf bite, his arm seems nearly healed. The prince thinks the wound looks ugly, but Cersei says all kings should have scars. She lectures him about the privileges of being the king. The one who sits on the throne can bend the truth however they see fit. Joffrey will soon have power, but he also must learn to pick his battles wisely and conserve his strength. "So you agree? The Starks are enemies?" Joffrey asks her after a conversation about the North. Cersei replies with a rather cold smile. "Everyone who isn't us is an enemy." Meanwhile, the Stark sisters do not seem to be getting along. Ned enters, and Arya gets sent to her room after threatening to stab Prince Joffrey. He gives Sansa a doll as a gift, but Sansa rejects it and exits the table. Ned grumbles, saying, "War was easier than daughters." Ned goes to check on Arya in her bedroom. She's holding Needle, the little sword Jon gave her. The death of Micah, the butcher's son, still bothers her and blames herself for it. Ned reassures his daughter that it wasn't hers nor Sansa's fault. She asks why Sansa should marry Joffrey at all. Ned doesn't answer and lets her keep the weapon. In Winterfell, Bran is still in bed recovering his strength. An old woman is at his bedside and tells some stories. She narrates a spooky tale at his request. A story about the White Walkers who ride on dead horses and hunt with packs of giant spiders. Robb Stark enters the room and interrupts her. Bran confirms to his brother he remembers nothing of the fall and learns he's paralyzed from the waist down. He tells his brother he'd rather be dead. Catelyn Stark and Sir Roderick Castle arrive at King's Landing. They're currently incognito to avoid too much unwanted attention. A couple of guards on horses then approach them, handing Catelyn a letter from Littlefinger. They escort the two to a brothel, an establishment that Littlefinger owns. Varys and Littlefinger are both waiting inside when Catelyn and Sir Roderick arrive. Catelyn's fuming for bringing her to such an undignified location, but Littlefinger insists this is the perfect place to stay low. These two members of the Small Council apparently knew about Bran's fall and the dagger used in the attempt to assassinate him. Varys remarks that the blade is made of Valyrian steel, and Littlefinger reveals that the dagger was once his. He lost it, and it now belongs to none other than Tyrion Lannister. Way up north in Castle Black, the headquarters of the Night's Watch, Jon is being trained by the castle's master-at-arms, Sir Alliser Thorne. He's very experienced with the sword, defeating every other recruit in combat. Jeor Mormont, the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, watches over them along with Tyrion Lannister. Back in King's Landing, Ned arrives at the brothel his wife is residing in and almost chokes Littlefinger to death for the undesirable location. Catelyn intervenes just in time and saves the day. At the wall, his fellow recruits, Pip, Gren, and Rast, attacks Jon for beating them so badly during practice. Tyrion enters just in time and threatens to behead them. The three back off. Tyrion tells the story of Jon's fellow recruits and how lucky he is to be trained by a master-at-arms like Sir Roderick. Tyrion leaves Jon with a letter informing him that Bran has awakened. The two Lannister siblings, Cersei and Jaime, are privately meeting in a room. Cersei's pretty worried about Bran's awakening, but Jaime assures her they can outfox a 10-year-old. He tells her the boy won't talk, and if he does, he'll kill him and anyone who will get in their way, including Ned Stark and the king. Meanwhile, Ned and Catelyn share a tender farewell kiss. Catelyn is to leave King's Landing and return to the north. King Robert is having a discussion with Sir Barristan, exchanging war stories while drinking wine. Sir Barristan's first kill was a Tyroshi, driving a lance through the heart. Robert then tells of his first kill, a young Tarly boy at the Battle of Summerhall. He knocked him down with his warhammer, shattering every rib. Robert snaps out of it and demands more wine. He's served by Lancel Lannister, a cousin of Jaime and Cersei, who became the king's squire. He calls in Jaime, who's been standing on guard duty. Robert asks him what it was like when the Mad King was killed, and what his last words were. He said the same thing he'd been saying for hours. Jaime replies, "Burn them all." In the Far East, Khal Drogo and his horde are traveling across the Dothraki sea plains. Daenerys and Ser Jorah Mormont discuss where the Dothraki get their slaves. She orders the entire Khalasar to stop so she can touch grass. Viserys is enraged by this, telling her that she does not have the right to command the dragon, and that he's the lord of the Seven Kingdoms. He draws his blade at Daenerys. Dany's bodyguard, Rakharo, comes to the rescue and pulls Viserys' neck to the ground with his whip. The situation de-escalates, and Rakharo takes his horse and forces the Targaryen prince to walk. At camp, Daenerys learns that she's pregnant. The Dothraki call it a blessing from the Great Stallion. In the cold north, Jon Snow climbs up the wall and looks off its top for the first time with Uncle Benjen. Benjen tells him he's riding out beyond the wall. Jon wants to go with him, but Benjen refuses. "You're no ranger, Jon." Meanwhile, at the base of the wall, Tyrion seems to be getting along with Yoren, a recruiter of the Night's Watch. They drink and trade stories about life on the road. Benjen enters the hall and is offended by some of Tyrion's words. Tyrion doesn't believe that ghouls, giants, and White Walkers are lurking beyond the wall. After that conversation, Tyrion decides that he'll return to King's Landing, asking Yoren to accompany him. Jon trains with his fellow recruits once again, but he's now taking time to teach them. Tyrion looks at him with approval. Before leaving, he fulfills his promise of pissing off the edge of the world, and promises Jon he'll carry his greetings to Bran. Tyrion then departs for Winterfell and King's Landing. Arya starts her sword-fighting lessons with a man named Syrio Forel, a master sword fighter from the free city of Braavos. He proudly calls himself her dancing master. He teaches her the basics of sword fighting and a special Braavosi fighting style called the water dance. While they're training, Ned stands in the doorway with a smile. He seems happy at first, but as the two clash their swords, his smile gradually fades. His head slowly filled with the sounds of blades, armor, screams, and war. What do you think about this show? Tell us in the comments below. Check out other episodes on our channel, and be sure to like and subscribe. See you next time.